From my heart to yours, namaste. Welcome to Yoga with Dennis. Today we're going to breathe the space between each of the vertebrae over the whole spine. To begin with, please come to all fours in the tabletop position. Feet flexed, toes tucked under. Hands as wide as the mat. Feel the hand in the upper outer arm bone. Flex the feet. And begin to undulate the spine, starting by moving the pelvis softly side to side. Then letting those movements begin to undulate all the way up the spine. As the hips come to the right ribs lifted, bring a wave all the way up the left side of the spine. Use the belly, bring the hips to the right ribs in a tabletop position. Begin to ever so softly wag your tail. Focus on the movement you're feeling in the undulation of the spine right in the lower back. Then begin to ring the base of the ribs over to the opposite side of the hips in small undulations. And finally bring the top of the head over and lift in the same direction as the pelvis. And as you go through this motion, bring the hips to one side, the base of the ribs to the other, the head to the same height as the ribs. Begin to create an undulation all the way up the spine. Move the head, the hips, and the ribs in ways that let you feel like there's an undulating wave coming all the way from the sacrum up to the skull. Notice if there's any stuck spots where it's harder to feel that undulation. Widen that with your breath and see if you can begin to release them there. My stuck spots are in the lower back and the base of the ribs. You all have them. Look for where they are. Bring soft, listen undulation to the whole spine. Slowly come to stillness, come all the way up to standing to Tadasana. Set your foundation for undulating the spine here. Feet in Tadasana feet. Start with about a fist width between the big toes. Feet equal, not one in front of the other. You can start with the second toe of the ankle parallel. But wherever your feet are, bend and straighten the knees a few times. See if the knee is traveling over the second toe. If it isn't, replace the feet. We all have slightly different shaped pelvises. If you did a lot of ballet when you were really young, you'll turn the feet out quite a bit to get that alignment. When you finally find that, push through the heels. Engage the bottom of the feet. Soft knees, engage the inner thighs. Hug the outer sides in. Then squeeze the buttocks and the lower belly so you feel the hips low. Now, we're going to add Mula Bandha as a foundation for the breath. Draw the pubis to the sacrum until you feel a toning at the base of the pelvis. Not so much you feel a clenching, just enough to feel that toning. Keep that. We'll take Uddiyana Bandha next. Touch the ribs. Move your fingers a finger width a little bit less than an inch beneath. Engage the muscles there and lift up and widen the back of the ribs. Create space for the diaphragm. Keep Mula Bandha. Keep this engagement here, Uddiyana Bandha. Take the hands, palm facing out, rotate the hands so you feel the shoulders pull down the back. Lift up through the top of the head. Lift up so much you feel the spine lengthen. Keep Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha. Now we'll begin Ujjayi Pranayama. Begin by inhaling for a count of 6, holding for 2, exhaling for a count of 6, suspending the breath for 2. The suspension at the top of the inhalation and bottom exhalation Should not involve any clenching in the throat or holding. If at any time you feel like you're not getting enough air, then dial down the number of counts. Begin. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Suspend. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Suspend. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Suspend. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Suspend. Continue. See if you can go a little bit longer, inhaling and exhaling for a count of 8. See if you can increase the suspension to a count of 4 at the top of the inhalation, bottom of the exhalation. Again, if you feel yourself fighting for breath, back off to the previous count. You can continue deepening the ujjayi breath if that's appropriate for you. You might want to make an aspirate sound like on the inhalation and exhalation to make it easier to keep track of the counts of the breath. You can be inhaling for a count of 6, 8, 10, or 12, suspending the breath for 2, 4, or 6. Take a minute now and find what the perfect rhythm is for you, where you feel like you're filling up completely, suspending, exhaling completely, and you're always getting enough air. You're never struggling. The breath is always easy and soft. Mula Bandha to the point of toning, not clenching. Udaya Bandha to the point of toning and opening the back of the ribs, not clenching. Keep looking for that perfect point for you. When you've got that, continuing with the ujjayi breath, we're going to maintain it through the rest of the video. Take the back of one hand to the sacrum, place the fingernail with the pointer finger on the sacrum, the thumb up 2 or 3 vertebrae. Now, on the inhale, engage the core muscles between the split vertebrae and lift up, increasing the space between the vertebrae. Keep that on the exhalation. You should feel your fingers go apart just a little tiny bit. It's not big. Now, on the next inhale, begin walking up the ribs, creating space between each vertebrae, and the one below it. Keep going, one vertebrae at a time. Take as many ujjayi breaths as you need to climb all the way up to the skull. Creating space as you go. Then when you get there, release just a little tiny bit. Now we're going to do that with a twist. So, watch the screen first. You're going to create space between the bottom 2 vertebrae and then let the twist organically rise up there, not forcing it, coming through on that space. Then create space between the next 2 and flow into that space. Keep moving up the spine. Let the twist rise organically from the pelvis. Don't look with the eyes first. Don't force the ribcage. Only go as far as you feel like you're feeling that space and there's no stress. If you feel a stuckness between the vertebrae, check you have Mula Bandha and Udaya Bandha. See if you can create the space or if you need to back off. Once you've made it all the way up to the top of the head, slowly release on exhalation. We begin the same process on the other side. Creating space between each vertebrae, then releasing into that space and a twist to the left this time. Again, don't over twist. Don't go to the point where you feel any stress on either side of the spine as you're going through this. You want to feel that there is no effort involved in the twist. When you make it all the way, release and begin again on the second side. See if you can go a little faster, creating space and flowing into it. See if you can get the twist all in one inhalation and release on the exhale. Create space up the spine, flowing into it on the inhale, releasing on the exhale. And after the next repetition, we'll left release. Bring the hands to the sides, bow forward slightly. Keeping Ujjayi Pranayama. Wiggle the hips, the ribs, and the head from side to side. On the inhale, recreate that wave up the spine on each side. Hips to the left, rib cage a little to the right, head to the left, and wave up the right side of the spine. Release on the exhale. Next Ujjayi inhale. Hips a little to the right, ribs a little to the left, and wave all the way up to the skull. Do this from side to side. Make it soft and soothing. Think of bathing the spine in your breath. After the next repetition, left, come to stillness. Come back up to Tadasana. This time we're going to do the same thing, moving into a back bend. Again, take several Ujjayi breaths the first time. At the beginning of the inhalation, create space between the bottom two vertebrae. And let yourself slide into that space. Slight back bend, moving up the spine. From the foundation up, so you're not lifting the chin, you're not creating the back bend from on top. It's rising up from bottom. If there's a stuck place in the middle of the ribs like me, take time there, maybe even bring an Ujjayi breath or two into it. Come all the way up to the top of the spine. On an exhale, come back to Tadasana. Find that perfect alignment in Tadasana. Again, lengthening the spine. Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha still active. And see if you can take one breath to move all the way into the back bend. Palms forward, elbows back to use the tips of the shoulder blades. So open the mid-thoracic. And the exhale, hands to hips and slightly round. Ujjayi inhalation, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, lift the spine, come into that back bend. Suspend the breath, and then on the exhale, round forward, suspend the breath, release the spine. Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha on the inhalation again, and rise all the way up to that back bend. And bow down on the exhalation. One more time, back bend. And then slightly round, hands on the hips. This time let the hands flow all the way down the legs to the earth. Come to lying on your back. Knees bent, feet mat distance apart, hands palm face up on out to the side. Walk one shoulder at a time on the back. Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Ujjayi breath. When you're suspending the breath, see if you can release between the vertebrae and let all of the spine melt to the earth. So in that kumbhak, that suspension of the breath at the top of the inhalation, bottom of the exhalation, focus on releasing the spine. Just like you're releasing into a pose in yin. Focus on that whole spine, releasing. And see if you can bring the hips a little further away from the ribs. The head further up toward the top of the mat. And then begin again. Ujjayi inhalation, spend the breath and release the whole spine during that suspension. You're still keeping Mula Bandha and Uddiya Bandha. You're just releasing the muscles between the vertebrae we're using to lift up for the twist in the back bend. Stay with that. We're going to stay with this for about another minute. Focus on releasing all those muscles. To make that easier, you can begin to wave the knees about 2 inches from side to side. Wave the head a little bit from side to side with the knees. And slightly bring the base of the ribs over in the opposite direction. Same wave we began working with in tabletop position at the beginning of class. On the inhale, move into that wave. And when you suspend the breath, let everything go. Focus on releasing between each vertebrae. Inhale into that wave, suspend the breath, letting everything go. On the exhale, let everything come back to center. Two more times to each side. On the next Ujjayi inhalation, release to the earth. Extend one leg at a time. Reach through the heels, extending from the top of that femur out of the hips. And then release everything. Release from the outside. Begin, no control of the breath now. Begin a tiny undulation of the space between the vertebrae. Move each vertebrae over to the side and back. Tiny, tiny movements. Imperceptible. Take that all the way up the spine. Make those slower and softer. Now surrender Shisvasana. Let those undulations stay. Instead of you telling the breath where to go and falling back, let the breath choose her path and you follow the breath. Surrender control. Surrender to your breath. Stay with releasing. We'll just be here another 60 seconds. Release the undulations. Stay here and savor a moment with the breath. Or if you like, get up and move on with your day. Thank you so very much for being with me today. From my heart to yours, namaste.